Good morning, everybody. Hope everybody's having a good day.
Excellent, excellent. So we're going to start things off with our first question. It's going to come from Tom Withers. Tom, take it away.
Kwesi, hey, Tom from the AP. Nice to meet you. Hey, I was just curious. We've got some big degrees walking around that building now, Stanford, Princeton, et cetera. Who wins the Jeopardy contest between you, Andrew, and DePodesta?
Oh my God. I'm never one to bet against myself. So I might have to go with me, but I mean, like you said, there's incredibly talented, smart people. I think it'd be interesting. Just it might depends on the category we go to. We go to 90s hip hop or basketball. I think I'm taking it. So.
Hey, so a lot has been made over the last few years about the league in terms of minority hiring, et cetera. You are now part of a very diverse front office in Cleveland. I just wanted your thoughts on how proud you are of that. And then secondly, if you feel like the league is making the necessary strides now to especially have minority hirings within in terms of assistant coaches, things like that.
Sure. As a minority, you kind of live in two worlds. Where you live in this world where you know that your expectation is lower based on the color of your skin, but you also live in this world where I have agency and what's going to happen in my life. So I'm one of those people that's always focused on my agency and what I can do. So wherever I've been and the things I've accomplished, I've never really stopped to kind of smell the roses in a sense. And so I've typically missed those points in my life. But when I got hired for this job, I received a bunch of messages on LinkedIn. A lot of them were from awesome Cleveland fans welcoming me to Cleveland, but some of them were from Black men who were just saying that they were, it inspired them to see somebody like me in a position like this. And that, honestly, that was super meaningful to me and helped me kind of see that for what it was. So I don't typically always appreciate that moment and the moment, kind of how impactful that can be. But, those messages on LinkedIn definitely showed me that. As far as the league goes, I know the league is trying their best. It's a complex problem. It's not necessarily always the result of bad intentions. It's just sometimes these things are self-fulfilling feedbacks that continue over time, and it really is hard to break the cycle. And honestly, it's a cycle that happens throughout the rest of society. The NFL is no different than corporate America or Silicon Valley, where I just came from. So I know the NFL is trying, and I'm going to be a part of that effort to try and give my 2 cents and input. Ultimately, you just want to give everybody the opportunity to be great. And have their merits be what carries them. And that's all everybody's ever asked for.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Tom. Our next question is from Mary Kay Cabot. Mary Kay, you're up.
Hi, Kwesi. Welcome to Cleveland.
Thank you.
So I'm going to hit you with a little bit of a newsy question right off the bat here. News just came down from the NFL that teams have the opportunity to extend their offseason programs a couple weeks, maybe end them after this week, but nevertheless, there won't be any mini camps. And the next time players will reconvene will be in training camp. So my question to you is, do you know if you guys will extend your offseason program and go all the way through June 26th? If so, what would be the benefits of that? And how do you guys maybe feel about knowing now that you won't get on the field until training camp?
Yeah, I mean, those discussions are continuous right now with Kevin and AB. I think that from what I've seen since I've been here, and I've only been here a month, but they've established a really good rhythm and they like what they're doing, and there's a really positive momentum, and I think they want to keep it, but they also want to be cognizant of the fact that guys need time off to recharge, coaches need time off to recharge. So those are factors that everybody's going to consider when it comes down to making this decision. In terms of not being back in the building until training camp, if you really asked Kevin, I'm guessing he would have thought that was going to be the case regardless. I don't know that that's a big surprise to most people that we're not going to see them in the training camp. So again, I don't want to speak for him, but I would guess that's where he was coming from on that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Kay. Our next question is from Scott Petrick. Scott, if you could unmute on your side, please.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How you doing?
Good. Hey, I'm curious about how you go from commodities trader to life in the NFL. How does that work?
I get asked that question a lot. I would say that my whole life, and not just my professional life, my whole life I've been really passionate about decision making under uncertainty. And I think Wall Street, my commodities trading background is a reflection of that. I think my graduate school in economics is a reflection of that. I think playing basketball is a reflection of that. When I think what draws people to sports from an academic environment is that you get a chance to apply some of these academic principles to things that happen kind of subconsciously on the court or on the field. And so I would, in a sense, some people see that as very different, but I don't see it very different in my ability to kind of pull information to make a bet on the direction of the oil market versus pulling information to making a bet on the direction of an NFL player. I think those are similar processes. Obviously, they're different skill sets and different information sources. And I kind of came into San Francisco kind of as a tabula rasa, clean slate, and just learned from those guys and learned the methodologies that they use. But ultimately, you're making decisions under uncertainty, and there are certain things that carry over across those fields.
Was that transition something you always aspired to, or how did it come about?
Sure. I mean, I've been a football fan since I was 3. I grew up in an area that's similar to Cleveland, where people live and die on Sundays, and so this has always been a dream of mine. To be honest, you don't know how to break in. I would say that most people who probably in your positions as well, you just don't know how to get into the building. So when I was in graduate school, it was something I had my eyes on. I thought maybe I'd be a professor and sort of consult, but I really did want to be a part of the team actually working in the building, and ultimately the stars aligned, and I got the opportunity. But it was something that I've always had a passion and interest in. It was just whether or not I could kind of break down the walls to get there.
Thanks.
Thank you, Scott. We're going to go to Daryl Ryder next. Daryl, if you could unmute on your side.
Hey, Kwesi, welcome to Cleveland. Just kind of curious, you're coming from a team that was just in a Super Bowl to a team that's been trying to turn things around for a couple of decades here. What, from your experience with the 49ers, do you think you can bring to the Browns that will really kind of maybe help them finally get over that hump?
Sure. Again, and these words become cliche, but an appreciation of alignment in culture. I got asked in a lot of the interviews, what was the most impactful thing I did in San Francisco? And I would love to say it was, saying George Kittle was going to be the best tight end in the NFL. I didn't. Maybe the models had him a little better than everybody else, but that's not what it was. What was impactful, the most impactful is after our 2016 front office reboot, they had me study successful organizations in sports and other companies. You really learn what it takes to make it. Look, this sport has tons of ups and downs every day. It's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be clean. And you got to have people in the building who aren't going to blink and kind of know what that looks like and having a shared vision. And all that stuff sounds good when you read it, but then living that experience over those last few years, 2017 wasn't easy. 2018 wasn't easy. And I saw John and Kyle never blink, and nobody else beneath them blinked. And so we always knew we were building towards something. And so seeing that up close, I just know that that's what it takes to win, and I'll never back down from that. And also I would say a sense of realism. It takes talent to win in this league. It takes great coaching. It takes great development. It takes a lot of great things, and seeing that up close and knowing that you need a kind of aggressive mindset to win on the margins in every facet of football operations. Again, seeing that up close is an invaluable experience that I'll never be able to kind of replicate. So I think that's what I'll bring to the Cleveland Browns.
Thank you very much, Daryl. Next question is from Marla Ridnour. Marla?
Welcome to Cleveland. Excuse if I got some feedback. I got some serious audio issues. I wanted to ask you about Andrew Berry, and what was it that did you think that you guys meshed? Was there something you hit it off right away?
Yeah, so I had heard about him obviously in league circles, and it was just somebody I always wanted to meet. And so we first met on an elevator bank at the Combine. Actually, I was like, I think that's him. And then kind of just turned to him and said, "Hey, Andrew, I'm Kwesi. I've heard great things about you. Nice to meet you." And he actually had, I guess, some coworkers that had talked about me. So it was just a mutual, wanting to meet each other. So we walked up. We took the elevator up and kind of walked to our suites, but just talked football and life for 10, 15 minutes, and we exchanged numbers and, decided it was a relationship we wanted to pursue. I didn't know this was going to be the end result of it. But I knew he was going to be in the position he was in. You talk to that guy for 5 minutes and you know where he's going to be in his life. But I didn't know this was going to be the manifestation of our relationship. Honestly, so humbled, honored that he believes enough in me and the organization believes enough in me for this position. And I'll do everything in my power to make sure I repay that.
One more quick thing, was that in the convention center?
Where was that exactly? On the kind of when you get to the the dome and you're kind of coming up that like, it's just very bland underneath the stadium and you're coming up to the suite level. Yeah, right there. And it's weird because I'm not the person to, just reach out and talk to people I don't know, but it's just something about them that made me want to talk
And
to them.
another quick one, did you ever have a second thoughts about whether football was the right path?
On at what point?
Oh, no,
No.
I'm thinking about once you got into the NFL, was it rocky to start?
Oh, for sure. It was not easy to start, but again, as Andrew will tell you, and everybody who knows me will tell you, I don't know that there's many people who want to learn more than I do. And so for me, I just took it as an opportunity to learn. I got to tinker, I got to innovate, I got to speak with people, see what worked, see what didn't work. So again, those early years are hard. As you know, with losing in the NFL, you take that personally as a competitor, and there's only so much you can do. But I always took it as a positive I always pointed the finger inward and say, okay, how can I get better? How can I improve my small piece of this and improve? So it was rocky, but I never questioned the vision and where I was going. I'm one of those people who has a profound belief in things happening for a reason and belief in their own abilities and their ability to work hard. So no, I never questioned football or not.
Thank you, Marla. We're going to go back to Mary Kay. Mary Kay.
Kwesi, I'm interested to know, what can you tell us about your football talent evaluation skills? What makes you sort of qualified or uniquely qualified to do that? I know you're coming from a basketball background per se, but obviously you said you loved football since you were 3. So that's the first part of the question. And then that will lead into, it seems like now you're kind of in the pipeline, to possibly become a GM someday. So I'm just wondering, what do you see as your role? How will you help Andrew in all facets of this job?
I might switch the order real quick. On that second part, I haven't thought about anything next. I've been in this job for a month, and you start swimming upstream very quickly here, learning what it takes to run an NFL team. So I'm being incredibly present and just proud and excited about where I am currently and not thinking about anything else in the future. About my ability to be a football evaluator, look, I came up unconventionally, but I think that my background was a positive because I didn't have any preconceived notions or bias. So when I sat in a room with great evaluators that I've been around in San Francisco, I just took everything they told me. I tried to find the intuition behind it. I ask why a lot. You'll find that about me. I want to know even the most simple question you might think is simple. I'm building kind of the complex bridge that'll get me somewhere complex. And so I got to be around some incredible people, and I'm not going to go on the epic shout out like I did in my first quote, but just there's some incredible evaluators I've been around, and I've asked them how they saw the game, and it's kind of shaped how I've seen the game. I've got friends in the league that, are talented. Again, I will pick every person's brain, and you find some amazing knowledge from everywhere in this league. So I would say that's where my evaluation base comes from. And then second, my job isn't necessarily going to be to say that this guy is, necessarily a more talented player. We have other people to do that in this building. My job is going to be another person who knows enough about everybody's kind of point of view to come together and make a good decision. And that's where I see my role, and that's where I see a lot of my value. I have my perspective, and I'll bring that to the table, but I also have an appreciation for everybody else's perspective, not only for my time in San Francisco, but also my time as a trader. To be honest, there's a lot of people who win a lot of different ways, and you come to appreciate that. At the end of the day, you're just trying to make better decisions, and that's kind of the basis of where I'll approach this job from.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mary Kay. We're going to go to Scott Petrick. Scott, take it away.
Before I ask my question, when was that elevator meeting with AB? Was that this year?
No, it was he had just begun in Philly.
Okay, so a year ago. Right. You spent 1 year in Philly.
Yeah, 1 year in Philly.
And then I'm curious, this is such a unusual off season. How does that affect you coming over to a new organization? And are you even in Berea yet?
Yes, I'm actually live from Berea right now. I'm actually in PJB's office because my computer, my internet connection was being weird. But, the off season, I'll be honest, these times have been super unique for a lot of people, but I've just been so busy, which has been great. When other people were on quarantine, I was in San Francisco preparing for the draft, and then I got to try and get up to speed and learn all these passionate, talented people that I'm going to be working with, and try and learn all the systems and processes that are in place, that have been in place here for years. To be honest, I haven't noticed any different because I've been working extremely hard for many hours a day. There's been no weekends. So for me, it's just been NFL schedules could be incredibly tough, and so this has just been another stretch of that. And so for me, I haven't really noticed the difference. I would say my flight here was a little different than usual. Every cough takes on a little different meaning when you're in the COVID world. But other than that, my life's been pretty similar.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Scott. Daryl Ryder.
Hey, using the term analytics sometimes will draw eye rolls throughout the NFL community. It really seems like DePodesta, Barry, Stefanski have really kind of come together and implemented their own system of application, whatever. I guess I'm curious, what's your view of a successful application of, using data to a team's advantage, not only on the field, but from a scouting perspective?
Sure. It's so funny. Before I came in the NFL, I'd never heard that word, never used that word. And now that I'm in the NFL, I still don't. At the end of the day, we're trying to make good decisions. And these are uncertain things that we're trying to figure out. And so we try and be evidence-based, I would more say. But look, coaches, scouts have been evidence-based in the NFL for a long time. Every quality control coach is evidence-based, right? They come up with a probability. So I don't necessarily think that this is some new thing. I think we're just applying it using different methods and also using it across football operations. Like I said earlier, we're trying to win on the margins. And so we're trying to extricate every little winning possible advantage we can find across football operations and using evidence to support that. And I think Kevin, AB, DePodesta, everybody in this organization are aligned in that sense. I don't think we believe it's more than it is, and I don't think we believe it's less than it is. I think we just believe that it's an important facet and something that can help us, and we're going to use whatever we can to help us.
All right, thank you, Daryl. We're going to go to Tony Zarella. Tony, take it away.
Kwesi, good morning, and nice to meet you virtually.
Nice to meet you.
Kevin said yesterday he wants players to get in the arena and to use their platforms. How confident are you that however this plays out on Sundays, and it should play out, the reaction won't be like 4 years ago, and this country is ready for this kind of ongoing message?
I have a unique perspective, having been in San Francisco at the time and kind of also just being a black man in America. And I have hope for where we're going in this country, but I can't sit here and tell you that I have some expertise that'll tell you, how it's going to go. I don't like to say things that I'm not knowledgeable enough to say. And that's kind of something I'm not too sure about what's going to happen. Again, I'm hopeful. I think there's a lot of great redeemable people, and I hope that we all come together and just be positive and live in a better world than it was delivered to us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. We'll take this last question from Tom Withers. Tom Withers, you're up. You can close us out.
Hey, can I get the talent evaluation on your hoop game? And also, what did that experience playing at Princeton? How did that shape, where you're at right now?
My Princeton experience is pretty funny. I was little in high school, and I grew 8 inches my freshman year of college, and then I kind of walked onto the team. So I was a like a practice squad. I was the guy that the try hard guy that's trying to make the team or whatever. And I think that dynamic, when I first got into my trading desk, my first boss asked me about my basketball career. And he literally didn't want to work with me because he thought I was like the talented guy. And you can't coach the talented guy. And I was like, oh no, man, like I was the end of the bench, like try hard guy. And so I think that will always shape who I am. I think I live in kind of these dual realities of the person with ability and intelligence that everybody says, but also the person who's got something to prove every day that he wakes up. And I think that is probably the most thing I'll take from that Princeton experience. Secondly, I would say that, I didn't see this at the time, but if you think about the Princeton offense, it was the early, rocket ball, right? It was threes and layups. That was the point of the Princeton offense. So seeing kind of how that strategical thinking that Pete Carrill did worked for a long time in basketball and has been copied, ad infinitum. I think that in hindsight is something that I've certainly appreciated so much to this day.
Did you guys still play that Carrill offense even when you were there? I know he had been long gone at that point.
Absolutely. Yep.
Did you? Thanks, man. Appreciate your time.
Of course.
All right. Thank you, Tom. Kwesi, appreciate the time today. Glad you were able to join us. Welcome to Cleveland. Look forward to seeing you when the time comes, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, everybody. I hope I get to meet everybody in person soon.